We're back. Welcome back. Episode 6. Two fans, one Paul, myself, David Quist, and my boy KB, Kirk Brown. How we doing, bud?
We're doing okay. A little bit crazy of a weekend, which is why this episode's a bit delayed. So had an emergency room run on the honeymoon, which isn't necessarily great, but we're all good over here. And first week of college football was about as good as it could have gone with some of the matchups. Obviously, not a ton of top tier matchups, but a lot of good games nonetheless. One second, let me turn on my light here.
Definitely agree. Yeah, I can confirm, whoever's listening, the wife of KB got a wicked gash in the head. Can confirm.
Yeah,
Watch out for 2
is
by
is
4s
yeah. 2x4s are heavy.
Funny. But we're going to jump right into our game of the week. I think most people would agree with us in this one. TCU Colorado. I mean, what a game. Colorado kind of pulls it out at the end there. I think Shooter Sanders is a dog, 38 for 47. 5'10" with 4 tutties. I mean, easy player of the week in my opinion. And then one other guy I want to highlight quick, and I'll throw it to UKB, is Dylan Edwards. He's like their little like running back that had.
True freshman too.
He's like a little running back, and he went off for like 3 long catches and then a rushing touchdown, I think. So he had a day too. But just your overall thoughts on the game, and obviously Travis Hunter's also a dog.
Yeah, it was a really fun game to watch. A lot of offense. I think both teams tackled poorly. Colorado had a lot of missed opportunities. TCU had a lot of missed opportunities defensively to get stops. It was really just seeing athletes, seeing explosion from the Colorado side. It was just a ton of big plays, and TCU really never got out of their looks. There's a lot of Colorado's offense. They have so many playmakers, and I talked about that before. I mean, I was way off my prediction. I said TCU would pull it out, but we were talking about their highlight, their star players on the outside, and they put those guys in one-on-one matchups again and again and again and again, and they won. I mean, Travis Hunter played like 110 snaps in 100-degree heat in Texas. Defensively, had an interception, two pass breaks up, four tackles. I mean, that guy was incredible. Shador Sanders, he just operated, man. He made the right reads, he made the right passes. It was really impressive to see a team that doesn't necessarily have a lot of continuity with not a lot of people had played together outside of a handful, and they looked like they were on the same page offensively. Defensively, I think they missed a good amount, and I think running the ball, picking up, the different looks TCU gave them in the run game, they struggled in. But when you're able to throw for 510 yards and you're able to get the ball, I think Dylan Edwards had more yards after the catch than total yards on the day.
I think
Like,
so
because he
because he
caught
caught like
multiple balls behind the
behind
line
the
of
line of
scrimmage.
scrimmage. Yep.
Yeah, and it was just his ability. He's might be one of the, I mean, I won't say the fastest player, but he's one of the fastest players in the country. He's a true freshman. He's like 5'8", and it was so impressive because you don't see that often.
Yeah, there's a couple times where I thought TCU had bad pursuit angle, and then maybe he's just faster. I know on the little is out to the left of Sanders, he just did a little swing route. See you later. So very impressive. I'm kind of curious to see how long Travis Hunter can do this. Obviously, game one in that heat's impressive with like 110 snaps. If he can continue to do that all season, he's got just it's just a motor. I do want to shout out what Dion does for like captains. He has like leaders and dogs. So if you see an L or D on
Yeah.
their jersey, that's what they stand for. That's kind of cool. Um, but I think, yeah, I do see some cracks in Colorado with the not being able to run that well. The defense obviously gave up what 45 points.
Yeah,
Um,
they gave up a ton of rushing yards too. I mean, between the two backs, they had about 30 carries, 200 and some change yards, and three rushing touchdowns. And Morris ran the ball pretty effectively. You really kind of saw the lack of depth on that D line and the lack of, you know, some positions where like outside cornerback, it's a lot of one-on-one matchups. If you play a lot of man, you don't have to know where anyone else is going to be. But in that front seven, you have to communicate. You have to be in the right gaps. You have to trust your teammates. And you didn't really see that at times in this game. Now, we don't know how good TCU is. I mean, some people are talking that they had kind of a hangover, but regardless, whenever you're 20-point dogs and you can come in and win, and obviously there's misplays by TCU, fumble close to the 20, pick on the goal line, which I don't know if you saw that play live. That was like near impossible. Like I saw it, I was like, oh, it's an open swing pass, and Hunter comes off his man and just dives, and it's an incredible play. And when you can make those plays, when you have big time players making those plays, that's the thing that wins games. Maybe at the NFL level, you have less of that because everyone's so skilled, everyone's so good. But when you're in college, if you have those absolute dogs, right, that can change games, that's what ends up, ending up in the scorebook. It was a super fun game though, super entertaining, exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dion's personality is he. I think he's a pretty solid coach. His personality is, you see what you get.
It's infectious, dude. Like you have to believe. Like there's no way you can't believe with him being your coach.
Yeah,
Like you have to believe in yourself with how infectious and determined and who he is. Like it's not like he was a slouch. He was one of the best ever to do it,
very good
And
baseball player,
so
very good football player,
I mean, just an
good
athlete,
track. Yeah.
and
So I'm excited to see how they match up against Nebraska. I think we all kind of have a question marks in Nebraska. They did what they usually do last weekend. We'll talk about that later this week. But lots to talk about that game. Obviously, we'll see what they got as the season goes along. They have a pretty tough schedule with the Pac-12 in its last year. But to the next game that I kind of wanted to cover earlier was the Washington Boise State game. I think in the beginning Boise kind of had it close a little bit, but then Penix looked like Penix. Top things I want to note on is their top three receivers all had 100 yards, but they gave up a lot of yards as well. Um, and their running game looked a little meh. But I guess if you have a quarterback like Penix and three receivers that can go off for 100 yards against an okay Boise State team, they'll probably go 8-4 or so in the Mountain West. So we'll see them in 2 weeks. I think they have a decent game this week. I can't remember who they played. I looked earlier, but we'll get a real idea of how good they are in 2 weeks.
yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where sadly Washington lost their leading rusher. It seems like he's out for the season. I heard yesterday on SportsCenter, so that always sucks. Hope for a quick and speedy recovery from him. When you look at that Washington team, they're going to put up points. They're going to put up yards. Them turning that into all those yards that they're going to put up passing into points is really the big thing. Sometimes an offense that throws this much can kind of get stuck. Obviously didn't have that problem against Boise State. Boise State didn't have too bad of a job. It's going to be you don't know where these teams are necessarily at, but we know Washington's still where they were last year, where they're still, their offense is going to carry them. Their defense just needs to get a handful of stops. And if you don't have a good defensive night, it's going to be a long time. Um, Taking away this game and kind of diluting it out, I'll see who they play this week. We can check right here.
I want to say it's like a
Tulsa.
Tulsa. Okay.
So I mean, not a huge challenge, but not a backwater team. Um, did you see things that last year that you're still concerned about? That you're like, well, I know the receivers are good, but like they added this. Maybe they added, tight end play. Maybe they added that D line with Euro line, or maybe their secondary looked better than last year. What did you kind of distill from this game looking forward a few weeks that you're still nervous about or really want to see MSU challenge? Maybe you're like, hey, this is a gap in their armor. Can we exploit this in a few weeks?
Yeah. Great question. And from what I did see, I mean, Penix is going to do what he does. He loves. I think their concepts work well too, and they have really good receivers. So that's we're not going to be tested in the secondary until them. So I can't even say anything about our secondary because Central's quarterback couldn't really throw. Um, they couldn't really run the ball, and I think that's kind of one of our strengths. So I don't really know if that's going to hurt them. Penix has seen us 2 times now. This will be the third time. In the first 2 games, he did really well. So I don't know if their O line looked fine. Their D line is solid too. So I'm not really sure if I see any cracks in the armor. Um,
But maybe if you can make them like fully one dimensional, or you said like, hey, they struggled in the run game, and you got like, if you can be fully one dimensional
yeah.
and maybe leave people out of the box, so you have more people in the secondary, that could even help you guys more, where you have someone, you know, doing a little bit more. But yeah, I didn't get to watch a ton of this game. I was at the hospital for most of it, so I saw like 10, 15 minutes of it. But I did watch back some of the highlights, and I mean, he slings the ball. It's such a beautiful pass. His spiral's so tight. It's just he's so fun to watch him play, and that matchup in a few weeks is going to be a lot of fun.
I would agree. Yeah, we'll see if anything happens against Tulsa, but they probably get an easy win. Um, next game, the Battle of the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. My boy Drake May kind of showed up. I think both quarterbacks kind of looked, fine. Rattler actually had decent numbers, just couldn't finish. No throwing touchdowns, but he had some good numbers. May looked solid. He threw 2 picks. I think one was kind of on a receiver. And from what I could tell in the highlights I watched, usually North Carolina has really solid running backs and receiver play, which I believe they did as well in this game. Kind of interesting to see what's going to happen in the ACC after last night between Duke and Clemson. So I think North Carolina might be able to win the conference, but we'll see if their line can stand the test throughout the season.
Yeah, and I honestly like this was a weird game because I don't think May necessarily played great. That O line for UNC at times was not great, and South Carolina's O line couldn't block. Like, not that they didn't block well, they couldn't block. Like, they were incapable of doing their fundamental purpose. There's 9 sacks
Yeah, I had 8
on
written down,
UNC.
but I was wrong.
Oh,
9. It's 9.
I think it's 9 sacks.
Yep.
And when you have 9 sacks, that's probably like 10, like 15 pressures where Rattler's running for his life, and he put up good numbers, 30 for 39, 353.
Mhm.
They couldn't run the ball at all. They couldn't do anything to
One
move
receiver
their.
that was really good too. I forgot his name. I was looking at those stats
Yeah,
earlier.
Leggett had 178.
Yep.
So I mean, they moved the ball, but it was about scoring and finishing drives, and South Carolina couldn't do that. UNC did it, even with 2 Drake May picks. Now, I don't know if UNC played well defensively necessarily, or if South Carolina's offense is just kind of out of sorts with that bad of an offensive line. It's so hard to tell, you know, is their skill positions good, or were they just having to throw the ball and having so many quick concepts? That secondary is still suspect for UNC, which might hold them back in that ACC conference. But you love to see that they could run the ball. They had 2 INTs and still, pulled away and handled the game. South Carolina got an onside kick to start the
game.
second half.
Second half, or was it to start the game?
Yeah, second half to start the second half, and they didn't score from it. Yeah, Chain Gang wasn't there. Shane Beamer brought it up in the post game, but it was just an impressive victory from a team that you had so many questions. Their best receiver, UNC's, the guy that's still transferring in, that had to sit out, wasn't even available for this game. NCAA's still postponing the decision for whatever reason, which is completely unacceptable. I just kind of wanted to highlight that.
Yes.
But he spread it around. Paysor had 7 catches. Koppenhaver had 3. Morales had 3. I mean, he got the ball to a bunch of different guys. But not a terrific, typical Drake May performance where we expect like 283 touchdowns and no interceptions. But a win is a win. Big one for UNC. Stay ranked. And you like it for the program because now that the ACC, with kind of what we've seen, it could be wide open at the 2 spot. So I'm really excited about that. What were your thoughts on kind of May's performance? He kind of looked not in sync necessarily in that new offensive system he's calling up.
Yeah, from the highlights I saw, he looked okay. Nothing special. I think it was first game jitters kind of thing. I think the running game from the highlights I saw looked pretty solid, and the receivers did their job. I think Mac Brown's good at getting guys in his system, especially at North Carolina the last few years. So let's just give Drake May a couple of big games to get comfortable, and hopefully he kind of shows up for that bet I put on him. But nothing crazy. The defense did their job, and 9 sacks is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Where are we moving next, Dave?
LSU, Florida State, and
LSU, Florida State.
I'm going to be forward with this one. Seeing Keon Coleman go off, it's a little bit of a dagger to the heart. He would have been easy wide receiver 1 for us at State, and obviously I think he's their number 1 guy, and they're pretty talented bunch of receivers. They're all bigger dudes, athletic guys, and he had 3 tutties and like
122 yards, 9 catches, 3 touchdowns.
I mean, the first
did you
touchdown
see the
was just a
highlight?
slant.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Blant took it, broke a tackle, ran away from everyone. Did you see his second touchdown where like they had a run play, got a first down, and then he just like waved his hand to the sideline like, "Hey, I'm going to beat this guy. I'm 1-on-1. Give me the damn ball." He was in the inside. I don't think he was necessarily slot, but he was on the inside and he released. And what I saw from that game, outside of Florida State and Keon Coleman, is that offense is incredible.
Very
they
good.
can run it with Benson. He didn't even run it well. That LSU front 7 is very good. But if you have anything on the outside, they are going to get it. Travis is going to be in time. It was an incredible offensive performance.
I think that was a good ball. He threw a pretty good fade too to Keon, and he had a good body positioning for his third tutty. I thought the D line looked really good for Florida State, and from what I saw, Jaden Daniels mediocre. I think they kind of had him running around a little bit, and he's a run first quarterback as we discussed last week, and I was kind of underwhelmed by LSU in overall. I think Florida State was the better team in all facets of the game.
It just seemed like LSU was overwhelmed. Like they weren't ready for the physicality, for the speed, for how intense Florida State was going to play. I mean, in the first half, it was kind of like Florida State errors that kept the game close. And then when Florida State figured that out, tightened it up a little bit, that LSU team didn't have any answers. They didn't have answers running the ball. I mean, when your backs get 4 carries, 4 carries, and 4 carries, and it's a close game for a half, that's an issue. Like you're playing LSU. I know that D line's good, but like Jaden Daniels had 15 carries. And I know some of that's rushing out of the pocket, but you gotta spread it. You gotta give your other playmakers the ball instead of just putting it all on Jaden Daniels' shoulders. I mean, he was good, 22 for 37, 347 through the air, but that didn't lead to the points that you needed to. Only one passing touchdown. They had 2 running backs that had 2. It just looked discombobulated. And I'll kind of point to this to talk about how ill prepared this LSU team was. Harold Perkins played 22 snaps in coverage.
Oof.
Harold Perkins is a pass rushing linebacker. He's undersized and he uses speed and quickness to get outside. And he was dropping back or playing spy. And it's like, no, put him on a huge tackle where he can use his speed and press that pocket down on Travis, who isn't an immobile guy, but isn't elite. Were you confused as much as I was? Because I was like, why is this guy not rushing the pass? Why is he not doing what he does so well? It's like they were like, well, he can just be who we want him to be in middle linebacker away. And it's like, why? Like, that's not his strength. He can probably do it, but not his
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah, I don't. Doesn't make sense to me. I'd send him. Obviously, he can do some contain. He can do some spying. He can blitz. There's a lot you can do with a guy like that. And it doesn't make sense to drop him in coverage. Obviously, if you have to play zone or man in a given situation, do it. But if a guy's specialty is to rush the passer, let him do his job.
Yeah,
So very
it was
surprising.
just one of those confusing things in that game. Obviously, Florida State played great, but
Brian Kelly's
just
weird. Do you think they started this slow last year? Because it was a close game last
well,
year, right?
it was a close game last year, missed it, and then I think they lost in like week
They were
3,
like
and then
nine
they
and
won
four
out,
or
right?
something. They had a
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, you like it. Florida State, has a possibly elite start to the season now if they can also double up and beat Clemson. Um, but LSU has some time to figure out. They don't play the meat of their schedule until later on in the season. They have Texas A&M late, Alabama late. They have, Mississippi State, Grambling State, Arkansas, which aren't bad teams, but they aren't the lead of the SEC, so they can figure it out. I mean, I don't know if I think we might have just seen an elite Florida State performance where they're back up there. They have their recruits, the guys that, it's Norvell, right? He's in his 4th season. Maybe these are the guys that he wanted, and now he's in the position to play them. He got transfers to fix some gaps. But LSU has to be disappointed with that performance. But we'll kind of see where they're at in a few weeks down the road if it was just, oh, LSU isn't as good as we thought, or like, yeah, Florida State is just that much better.
Yeah, I would agree. Great game. Quarterback's good. I think they have a really good receiving core. Some kind of, and with that D
Yeah.
line, some kind of like to see where they're gonna go. Any other games you want to hit on before we jump into Michigan State, and Michigan here?
Just one quick thing, and then I want to mention one player, Clemson and Duke. That was a complete and utter failure by Clemson, and Duke played a hell of a game. Clemson's offense,
I mean,
I
three
think
turnovers in
Dabo
the red
still has
zone.
his hands deep entrenched in that. It was poor. They fumbled on the 4. They fumbled on the 1. They threw an interception. They missed 2 field
Kicks.
goals.
Yeah,
One was blocked. Another was,
not even close.
shanked.
Shank.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's just it's unbelievable. Like it's not Duke has played good. They're a really good team, but I just think the biggest thing is you don't see those playmakers on Clemson. Their running back is fine. They
Shipley's
got
their best
2
player.
Mufasa or is it Massa or I can't think of the other back, but Shipley and him are good, but they don't have they don't have winners on the outside. Like you see like a 6'3" white dude who really doesn't have that much athletic burst into them. Like there's like two of those guys, and then you maybe have a decent tight end, but that scheme, whatever they're trying to figure out there, is bad. Just it was discombobulated. DJ Uyunglele has to be just fucking licking his chops after his performance at
Yeah,
Oregon
he had a,
State. So happy he got off of that bullcrap offense that doesn't have any semblance of structure and a good offense. Um, so I wanted to highlight that. And then Texas Tech also fell victim to Wyoming. Double OT game was a lot of fun. One of the fun things, Dave, and I want to ask you this, is they had a very similar comment to your MSU Spartans when they beat Miami, and they said that we just needed to take them down into the deep end, and we know we would win. I don't think you caught that. It was in the post-game interview. The quarterback said that. But some Sparty lingo, traveling through the CFB world. I
that's
just thought
great.
that was funny to highlight.
That's college. That's football speak. I love it. But I do want to shout out the Duke game. I saw the first couple series, and then I was watching some TV with the wife, and I told the group chat I'm in Duke money line, which I bet before the game. But after watching the first couple series, it just looked like there was no separation between Clemson, which should have the better players, such as winning natties the last 5 or so years, and Duke's guys were right there with them.
Yeah.
So it seemed like Duke was a better team, and I watched some highlights during the day, and Clemson was very sloppy in the red zone.
One of the funny things is, like you were saying, the athletes and everyone kind of looks similar. Clemson has 45 or 53 or somewhere in that range, 4 and 5 stars on their roster. Duke has 4 or 3 or something like that. So I think just a lack of development and kind of christening new guys to play well in that Dabo Sweeney era the last few years after they lost generational quarterback talents, Watson and Lawrence. But it was a fun game, and Duke, man, they won 9 games last year. This might be a shakeup at the top of the ACC. Florida State can come and give Clemson a second loss in the ACC in a few weeks. I mean, that could completely shatter a team. When we were talking about earlier, FSU, I was like, hey, if they lose to LSU and they lose to Clemson, I mean, they might be 1-2, 2-2. Like that can shatter teams, and that's what you might see here. You got a young quarterback, some young guys all over that defense and offense. I mean, who knows? Maybe Dabo has a really bad year, and that's a cult down there, so they might not like it, and they might run him out of town.
Yeah, Dabo's a weird dude. I think UNC Duke could be a big game. I don't know what week they play, but that could be really fun if they're both having really good seasons.
Yep,
And we'll see how Florida State shakes out since there's no more divisions in the ACC, correct?
correct.
Okay. Okay, now to the fun stuff why we're all here. Obviously, we like college football, so we're going to hit games every week, but we're here because we're Michigan and Michigan State fans, and I'll jump in first since we played on Friday. We played the first game. Let's just say the first half was yikes. It was really bad. We couldn't get a push on 4th and 1. Noah Kim was overthrowing receivers. We had like 5 or 6 drops. I don't think the O-line was getting a great push. The defense did do their job. I think the defense played well the whole game. I think some weird coaching with the holding call. I understand you want to push the team back, but then the next play we get a face mask to give them an automatic first down. And then we do stop them again, so it didn't matter. The first half was definitely a yikes. I mean, we were just not doing anything until like the 2-minute drive that we had with Glover, 2 big catches on the sideline with Kim, who throws a pretty good deep ball. And then the second half was just we're better overall. Good running with Nate Carter. Berger looks good in his role, doing some catches. Um, Kim, I think, kind of more relaxed. Some big plays by a couple of receivers, Fitzpatrick and Tyree Henry. Henry with the
That was his
that was
first
sick.
career
First
catch, wasn't it?
Yeah, he also looked pretty solid in my opinion on the return game. He had, I think, every return he probably had 10, 15 yards, which in my opinion is pretty
Was he
solid.
punt or kick or both?
I think both. Well, there's something that happened on the first kick return I want to talk about later that shouldn't
Yeah.
happen ever in football in general, but we'll talk about that later. But I think he did both. I think he definitely had some bursts in the punt game. 15 yards, those could break off for touchdowns. Just watched Jaden Reed a couple years ago. So kind of a tale of two halves. We were all pretty disappointed. A lot of my buddies and I that tailgate or sit together, and some weird coaching. I hate our 4th and 1 efficiency. It's terrible. I don't think the O line looked anything special. Maybe Central's solid team. I give them credit. They did a good job, but
Yeah, those D linemen from Central, I'm not familiar with their names, but they dominated
they were
in the
good.
short
And
yardage and
they're
interior. Like they slanted well, and I think MSU, they got some huge guys, some mammoths down there. I know a
yeah,
lot of them are like 320 plus, 6'4" plus. But those CMU guys, maybe a little bit undersized, but they were slanting, getting in front of their face, like with ease. I think it was number 10 or 8, whatever. He looked like 6'2", and he had like 3 or 4 stops where it was like no one could even touch him. And I was like, God, that's scary. I was watching the game while driving up north here. I just had it on my phone. Also, if you don't have the streaming, look up YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in the game, and put live, and you can watch a ton of games. They're usually like a 10-second delay. You can watch a lot of them without having to pay. Like if you don't want to pay for Peacock or something like that, you can avoid doing that a lot of the time with just typing it into YouTube, and you can follow the game. Now there might be some like ad blocks popping up, and you'll get the live game, but it's overall better than not watching it. Basically, just put it on like a radio. Um, but one of the things that I kind of wanted to ask is when MSU played U of M in 21 and Kenneth Walker had his huge game, they ran that hurry up after third down in like 6 plays where they would immediately run that hurry up. And that was like the first time they kind of featured that where they ran it like 5 or 6 times.
They did that.
And it seems that Jay Johnson
Overpaid,
loves doing
overpaid
that.
coordinator. Yeah, and when he does it, what's he call? He calls a fucking run.
A
Throw a
dive.
little,
Every single
throw a
time. It's a
pop
hurry up
pass,
to the
throw a play
line,
action, do something different, dude.
dive.
Because you're rushing these guys to get set. I mean, against Michigan we ran it pretty much, but like, throw these guys off. Do a play action. Do a toss. I don't know. Do a jet sweep. Do something. A quick throw. Or don't just do a dive because I like the I like it. I like the tempo. Let's go. We had a big play. Let's have another big play, and we just do a dive, and our O line doesn't get a push. When we have a decent running back in Nate Carter, who had a pretty good game. I think he had like 5 or 6 yards of carry. First play of the game, he went for 30. He had a couple decent runs and a touchdown. So you have a guy that knows how to hit the hole, but Noah Kim, I think he throws a good ball. Give him a chance to make a play after we had a big play. I just don't like that.
Yeah, like eventually you have to run something else off of that because like I get doing it to like speed him up because you have weird personnel on the field and maybe they have like pass happy personnel, but it's no longer a surprise for teams. Like it has to be in every team's playbook that like, hey, if they have a big play, you need to line up because they might try to hurry up and you see MSU rushing, CMU matches it, doesn't sub, and it happened like 3 or 4 times. And this isn't like OSU guys that we're dealing with, or like U of M or Penn State. These are CMU guys, and you couldn't get a push on them while doing this hurry up. It just seems like the concept is like a novelty almost, instead like he's using it as like a foundational point, and it isn't working. Like it didn't work well. It didn't work a single time in the plays that I watched. It was just really weird. I think Kim settled in really well. That's good to see. I mean, making his first start. I mean, he had like 20 career pass attempts or something like that. Like not ideal. And he settled in well. He throws a beautiful deep ball, but again with the play calling, like there's no identity in the routes that are being ran. Like there's no like easy completions that I see for Kim to get him into the flow of the offense. And when there were, they were dropped by, young receiving core. But
It wasn't young guys that were making drops. Malik Carr
well,
and
yeah,
Trey
Malik Carr had a
Mosley
drop. Trey Mosley had a
should
drop.
not
Oh, I
have
thought it was the
drops.
young guys, but they did not play well. They didn't help Kim out early.
Correct.
And it just seemed like they were like, all right, our offense is going to be the same offense we ran against Michigan in 2020, and we're just going to drop 3-step drop and just chuck it to our receiver and hope we win. And it's like that's fine against CMU, but when you don't have the better athletes at receiver, that's not a productive thing. And what are you trying to do against CMU? Get into offensive sets. And I know it worked, but it just doesn't feel like the offensive sets being ran right now. And I'm watching it more intensely than like I normally would for state because like I want to be able to have a good dialogue. It just doesn't seem like it's like these are the concepts we're going to be able to run against the teams when we need to win. It's just like, oh, we'll just run like a 20-yard one-on-one matchup with our true freshman, and it's like, oh, he beat CMU, but like probably won't work at the next level. But I mean, obviously good, outing on the second half. Defense did look good. Don't know about the secondary. That CMU quarterback couldn't throw the ball.
Correct. Very good. He was very athletic. He had that one touchdown throw, or I think it might have been in cover 3 the way it looked. Chuck kind of came in late, hit the guy. But I
Yeah.
think in the second half we made good adjustments. He didn't really get much running yards. And like I said earlier, I think the defense played well. I think it's Zion Young. He was everywhere. I think he plays D end. And I was talking to Matt Neal. Shout out. He said we're next to each other at the game, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I think he wears number. Let me look, number 9. But he made a lot of plays. He was standing out, um, and I'm kind of looking forward to see where he pops up because I didn't hear too much out of Leye really. I think Simeon Barrow had a couple of plays, but I think Brule and another transfer made a couple of big plays. So it's nice to see that. I think against Richmond we have to just beat the better team, like a 45-7, 42 nothing kind of game, in my opinion.
Just play a complete game would be
Yep,
the goal, right? Come out,
absolutely.
establish yourself again, and
Yeah,
just be confident.
I have two
I
more
also thought
points.
Wyndham played really well too, and then
Yes.
Holiday had the pick too off the tip, which
Yeah,
I thought that
tackling
the
was
Holiday pick I thought changed the game almost for you guys. Like the momentum swung where CMU kind of was like in it, playing well offensively, moving the ball for like the third straight drive, even though they hadn't really come out with a ton of points. Only had 7 in the first half, which could have been 10 or 13 if they played, more conservatively and just kicked field goals. But that play, like launched MSU
yeah.
into being like, all right, we know we're obviously better. We have the depth, and now let's punish them. That's what I saw at least,
Shout
which is
out,
huge. You want your guys to make big plays.
shout out Angelo Gross, our nickel guy. He tipped that. He's kind of a mismatched against like a Ohio State team, but he's actually a really good tackler and really good in the slot. I think I mean, it's our first game. I think the tackling was mediocre. Obviously, I think that gets better as the season goes on because you don't really tackle in camp, which is for safety, which is fine. But there's two more points I just want to hit on
Yeah.
before we move to the Michigan game. The 4th and 1s, maybe shotgun works. That's fine. I'm a guy that likes running QB sneak, but what pisses me off is when a media guy asks Tucker a question about it. He says it's getting late. Tucker, you get paid about $10 million a year to answer a hard question about a 4th and 1 call. Maybe it was Jay Johnson's call to say we're working on it. We'll look at it, and we'll look at it next time. Don't say it's getting late when you get paid a lot of money to win football games. If in my opinion, Noah Kim's not a big quarterback, but get your big boys in there and have fucking Nate Carter or Burger push his ass forward for a yard. And if the other team wins that play, then they won that play. But you can't run a 4th and. I'm okay with a shotgun sometimes, but when your offensive line gets no push against CMU twice, it looks pretty shitty, and the fans are gonna be mad. So, in my opinion, you got to answer that question. It looks kind of bad. Just
Well,
like
it wouldn't be a problem if it was only this year, right?
it's been
This
a
has been
problem.
an ongoing issue since last year with the same. I mean, against Michigan, it's 7-7 or 10-7, you guys or whatever it was, and they ran like a 12-minute play action half step counter play that went for like negative. Like the play calling in those situations have been bad, and it's
Simple.
still bad. Like he has to answer for that, or at least say, oh, that's Jay John. Like that's his. He knows what he's doing, and like say like,
Jay Johnson's
but
also like a
that's
top paid coordinator. So if he
yeah.
comes out this
Both of
week,
your coordinators are like top
top
15, I
top
think.
15, yeah. I think
Yeah.
Hazelton did fine, but Jay Johnson can answer or Tucker, but Tucker gets paid a lot of money. Just don't say it's getting late. Have some respect for your fans and for the media. Just give a little coach speak answer is not going to hurt to say we're going to look at it and we can analyze it and maybe we'll have different looks next game or something. Honestly, that this irks me and is a little disrespectful to the fans because they think we don't know shit. Obviously, I don't live and breathe football. I love football, but I don't know as much as them. But just my point on that. And back to what we talked about earlier about kicks and punt return. First play of the game, which is shitty to see. I didn't see it live. It was like because I was watching the return. I wasn't watching the blocking, but I watched
Hmm.
the replay back. Alante Brown, who's probably a good receiver from Nebraska that we got as a transfer, got smacked. I watched the kid from Central's going 110%, and he just kind of hits him, and he goes like he's knocked out,
Completely stiff. Yeah.
and they got the stretcher out. What not? Obviously, watching it back was a concussion, and then I don't know how long later in the first half, he's out and suited up, and I was like, what? I was like, because we're by the entrance now in the
And
goal.
you can see him
I
come
was like, why
out.
is he wearing his helmet? And I guess he returned or he was on kick return.
He returned a kick
Yeah, he
in the
returned a
second
kick,
half.
and
In
then
the second
later,
half, he returned a kick.
he was in a hoodie. So that's kind of on the training team because I don't think a coach is, now it's 2023. A lot of stuff has changed the last 20 years with concussions. Like, there's absolutely zero way, if I'm a fan and I, like sports, that I should know. This kid just got knocked out. He's not going to play the rest of the game and probably not next week. But for some reason, he suited up and then he took a kick return. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw it because I went through that thread too because I didn't even know what happened.
that's terrible. That
I had
cannot
missed the opening
happen.
kick, and the thing that was weird to me is some people are like, well, it's on the medical staff. It's like, no, you're the head. Like, It's
It's
CMU.
it's on
You do
both.
not need to play a player who just watch the clip. His head hit first, so he got Stinger knocked out. Maybe he's fine to return. He didn't catch himself from
He
hitting the
literally
ground. His
fell.
head just like
Yeah.
it's not that. This isn't that important. CMU isn't that important. Maybe at Washington it's like a half score game. You don't need him on special teams. You don't need him. He's the up guy, so he's not even the main returner.
Yeah.
He's one of the main blockers. You could I don't care. Just tell him, hey, don't go near the football and just hit whoever you see. Anyone on your team can do that. You do
Sure.
not like that's the thing that frustrates me because I get like if the medical staff clears him, they say, oh, he doesn't show any symptoms. But
That's bullshit though,
for
because you getting knocked out, in my opinion, is a symptom. But
yeah, you being completely unconscious is a huge symptom, and so I just don't understand like hiding behind that. Like, even though they say, yeah, he can go back in, you need to be like, hey, look, we saw what happened.
yeah,
It's not that important. It's CMU. Even if it's the most important game of the year,
he should go back.
re-injury rate when you already have any head trauma,
Is
like
not good at
can
all.
can debilitate you. Like you can even like catch a tiny hit and it just all right, you're no longer brains functioning because it's already injured. Right? It'd be like someone going out there with an ACL, right, completely torn, and you being like, but he can still run a little bit, right? He just has a
Can't
little
cut.
hitch in his. It
Can't
doesn't make any
cut.
sense. It was
It was.
completely ridiculous, and
It's bad.
it's obviously like we're not asking for anyone's job here. It's just like you have to be better.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen.
Everyone around you, like you should say, all right, dude, we saw the replay. You went out. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. That's all it should be. That should be the entire conversation.
Yeah, I'd asked my brother and my dad like what happened, and then I saw it later in the day, or later that night, or the next morning, and it just shouldn't happen. And I, I I've looked up some stuff about the trainer in the past, and she's very well renowned. So I don't know if she's still on the staff, but just surprising to see, especially nowadays. And like the Shea Patterson thing a few years ago, he definitely
No,
was
Shane Morris.
Shane Morris, sorry, he was concussed. So
Yeah, they sent him back in, and that was part of the reason why he got fired
was that
was
Hoke?
because of that. Um, sorry,
Was
what?
that Brady Hoke?
Yeah, that's part of the reason too. Is that like kind of sealed his fate because everyone
Yeah,
was
that was bad.
pissed.
But yeah, that shouldn't happen, and I just want to bring that up because it's just something that you don't want to see your team do that when you're a pretty well respected training staff. So hopefully they see the mistake and it doesn't happen again. I doubt it will happen again, and hopefully Alante Brown gets better and is playing in a week or two. But concussions are serious, so they'll take it serious. I think they know that.
Yeah.
That's all I got for us. I hope we dominate
Hey,
Richmond.
but want to know.
Yeah,
Hey,
a win's
W's
a
a W. Want
It'll
to
count
know.
one. All I want to see is us dominate a team from front to back. We'll talk about this more in the week, and just more accountability from our coach. You're getting paid a lot of money, so just
Yeah.
tell us what we want to hear. But to the Michigan game.
To the Michigan game. So I'll get this out of the way. Obviously, JJ McCarthy comes in with his free Harbaugh shirt on, with number 4 on it.
Cringe.
I think it's funny. Like if you can take it tongue in cheek, I think he means it seriously, which is kind of like cringy. But I think as a Michigan fan, it's just funny because one of the things that we've kind of seen is how delusional college football players can be with like us against the world. Everyone's like, Georgia, we were doubted. No, you're the number 3
Nobody-
team in the country
nobody doubted
because you had to
you guys.
replace 13 players.
Nobody
No
doubted
one
you guys.
doubted you. And so I think that's one of these cases where it's like Harbaugh's, he can't talk to the media, but he can probably talk to, everyone on the team. Like, I didn't do it and they're out to get us. And, they're taking it seriously. The play where they all held 4 up, I think was also, that one was more funny to me because I know that the self-imposed thing for Harbaugh came from the university and it's only 3 games, but they're basically telling the NCAA to go, yeah, shove it up yours.
Yeah.
Which is funny because anytime you can piss on the NCAA is funny to me. So that was kind of funny. I get why other fans and everyone else is like, that's the stupidest thing in the world. You guys suck. I'd be like, yeah, probably. But for an U of M fan, it's like, yeah, that's hilarious. Like any other situation, it's just like so goofy without your head coach out, without your offensive coordinator, and you just call an offensive play to tell the NCAA, yeah, you guys suck. So I just thought it was funny. I get why other fan bases think it's cringy and dumb and stupid, but it does kind of distract from the game, which is a shitty part about it because that ECU team's decent. So just getting that out of the way. Any thoughts more on that day before we actually talk about what happened on the field the rest of the time?
No, I mean, it was cringy. Uh, in my opinion, Michigan's gonna Michigan. They like to cry wolf a little bit. I can see how it's funny, absolutely on your side. I think that's definitely a valid point. I see it as cringy and like, oh my, people. You can also take it as people like, oh my gosh, what happened to the coach? If like they don't know what's going on, like is he hurt or something? No,
Yeah.
he just probably lied about a hamburger, and the NCAA doesn't like to be lied to. So
Yep.
cringy. They're making it probably like you said, college kids are making a bigger deal than it is. Um, it doesn't matter. They got 3 cupcakes when he's out, and he said some weird shit in his press conference as well. We something I can't remember what he said.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can go over that too after this. He's so funny. Like I think he knows. Like I don't think he has a social media. We'll talk about that later. That was
No,
also funny
that's all I
though.
got. But we can jump into the game. It was cringy and
Yeah.
weird, but we'll see if they do it again. Anything.
So I hadn't really noticed it. Obviously, week 0 you didn't really see, but the TV timeouts and the game slowing down, I kind of really saw that in the first half here. So Michigan was dominant in the first half. Their first series, they're backed up on their own one. They just run the ball 3 times and punt it away. No reason to give ECU any confidence. Obviously frustrating because you want to see it. Their punt returner, who they ended up taking out, did that like 2 times in a row. Just let the ball drop, and it rolled 15 yards. So they took him out and just catching punts, stop letting the ball roll. But it was a dominant first half performance. JJ McCarthy looked unbelievable. There were some throws that he made that were terrific. Um, I think you look at the running game. The offensive line did not play well in the running game. Protection, they were, good. I still think that they struggle on picking up weird angled blitz and holding their ground and passing off guys. But 3 of these guys are new starters, so they have 3 new starting players on there. So the communication is going to take some time getting used to because 3 of those guys weren't on the team last year. So it's not like you have 3 guys who are just new starters, but they've been in the program for 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years. It's 3 new starters who weren't in the program, who have to learn a completely new, different set of ways to do things. So decent. Corum, it was nice to see him come back and run. He had a few nice carries, almost had a touchdown, stepped out at like the 2. Donovan Edwards picked up steam. It still seems for him that early on in games, he struggles to find holes. But when you get to that like after he gets about 4 or 5 carries in him, he starts seeing things opening, starts letting the game flow. Was used in the receiving game pretty well. Uh, any thoughts from you? I don't want to keep on rambling.
No,
This
you're
is
good.
all just kind of first half. The second half was just a wash. They kind of packed the bags in and they knew they were going to win, so didn't want anyone to get hurt. But what would you see? What you like? I thought Roman Wilson was electric. He had 3
Yeah,
touchdown receptions. He got open. Obviously, you can't talk about this. JJ threw a pass like a step and a half
it was definitely across the line.
beyond the line. I have no idea how it wasn't reversed. But he looked so good. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see. His feet timing, it was great offensively. They were on point. They only had 4 first half possessions, including a 3 and out. Or no, they had 5. It was a 3 and out. That was 3 plays. Touchdown, touchdown, and then I think field goal and touchdown. Like there's a field goal right before the half, but they didn't have a lot of offensive
Yeah, I think.
series necessarily.
Yeah, I think JJ looked fine, pretty good. I think against ECU he should have a good game, which he did. Solid. He did what he had to do. Um, the running backs, I think maybe they're starting a little slow. I think they're. I don't know. I wasn't really impressed. Is that? I guess we'll see. Obviously, they kind of. I think this was a prototypical Michigan game. They're gonna get ahead. They're gonna run the clock. And now with the new rule, I think KB said it to me in promo hashtag promo guy. Shout out Sam. Um, you said to us like bet the unders because they're gonna run the ball and just run the clock's gonna run so fast now with this new rule. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't know if that bodes well for Michigan in the way they play, and
it's a
obviously
lot more close games.
it's going to be a
In
lot of close games
mistakes,
with
mistakes. One single mistake can
Penn
you know
State and Ohio State and even us. Who knows? I'm not saying we're like the best right now, but the way Michigan plays, this is a prototypical game. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna throw when they need to. If they need to, they need to give JJ the keys. I mean, obviously Corum and Edwards are the guys, but if they're not running well in a game, which can happen, I think JJ's talented enough. Everybody else does. But I want to see him earn that. I want to see him actually win a game. I don't think he's done that for you guys quite yet. Um, but
Other than the OSU game, but yeah.
no, sorry. Um,
No, yeah, he
you
definitely.
know
I
what
mean,
I'm
he had
trying to say.
31. Yeah, yeah. I think they kind of did that here, where ECU
Yeah.
was forcing them to throw the ball in the first half. Like they were like, we do not want him to run, or we do not want them to run. They're blitzing, playing really aggressive. Michigan, I mean, there's a pass that JJ had where like that's where you can see him being if he can, keep up his performances. He had a cover two where the cornerback was sitting and he had a little pump fake shoulder on the under route, like the little out route. The corner bit down, and he threw it right over his head. He just gave himself, a little window and hit Roman right in the, corner of the end zone on a corner route. It was just the beautiful play. Um, Obviously not the competition where you're like need to be blown away, but this is exactly what you want your starting quarterback to do against a low level competition is look efficient. I think he completed 77% of his passes, escaped the pocket, still kept his eyes downfield. In the running game, yeah, the running backs both looked a little not they I don't know if it was just like ECU is fast, but they looked kind of slow and sluggish getting in and out of cuts. Corum's obviously coming back from injury and surgery. Edwards is coming back from injury and surgery. And then the only real critique I have on this game is Michigan gets the ball down to about the 4 yard line. They were up 30-0, and they just ran it 3 times again, 4 times again, and got stuffed. And it's like, can we please just like one time?
Was JJ in or the backup?
It was when JJ was in. When the backups came in after the second possession in the third quarter. So the entirety of the fourth quarter and the last like 6-7 minutes of the third quarter were all backups, and they threw one pass. So it was literally run, 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 maybe a first down, run, punt, run, run. Like it was boring as hell. I honestly was just like, this is. I get wanting to get the snaps, but if you're not going to play it, but I think without Harbaugh there, they don't want to risk anything. New OC obviously, but it was a good performance. I mean, there's nothing to kind of write home about. Defense looked fine. It would have been a shutout, except ECU settled for a field goal to
To
keep
end
their
the game.
streak of, yeah, to end the game, which is like the lamest thing you can do. Just like James Franklin didn't just knee the ball when they were up, like, and broke the spread is like the stupidest thing, and isn't like you're not really playing. You're like worried about a shutout streak. It's like what are we doing here? You should just knee and leave. But it was overall good. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of injuries, no more injuries, which is good. Hopefully secondary gets healthy this week, and we can have a full secondary where everyone's ready to go by the time they play Rutgers, who looked okay week one. So
They did.
we'll obviously be previewing all the games next week, but I don't know. It's just not a great team. Michigan played well. I think ECU is going to be better by the end of the season. They could even have 7 wins this year, 6 wins this year. They have some guys that can win. They have some running backs. It's just they're a very inexperienced team in snaps, but they've been in the program for a while, but inexperienced in snaps. So
Yeah, I kind of want to see what Central does too because I think they look pretty solid and we kind of just pulled away. So I'm kind of curious to see how they finish up in the MAC.
yeah,
But
if they can figure out their quarterback situation, because that guy couldn't throw a ball,
no.
like could not throw a football.
One thing I was
So
just thinking about when we were talking, we'll do this each week. I think we should just pick a player of the game from our respective team. Um, so if you want to lead it off, who would you choose for Michigan?
um. I don't have the defensive steps. I don't think anyone like made huge strides for them. But offensively, I'll go JJ. I mean, 280 with 77% completion, 3 touchdowns, easy, efficient, on time. That's exactly what you want to see. Um, so I think that's exactly how you kind of want things to go. Um, yeah, I mean, Roman Wilson had a great game, but I'm gonna give it to JJ because he looked way better footwork wise. And then we still need to talk about that Wii fence comment.
Yeah, we'll
Just
talk
just
about that
to,
in a second.
yeah.
Because
But how about you?
I
Who?
want to pick my player and then I have somebody else that I have to own up to my hot take.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
Nate Carter, 18 carries, 113 and a tutty. I think this is another win out of the portal, and if he would have taken that first touch for a touchdown, kind of similar to Kenneth Walker in 2011 against
Yeah, yeah.
Northwestern, I think we would have gone nuts. So, but he had some flashes. I think he's definitely the one guy, and then Berger's a good too. But I'd give it to Nate Carter. I think our defense looked solid, but nobody really stood out. I mean, I'm assuming that Holiday probably had close to double-digit tackles, and Wyndham probably did too. But I think Nate Carter was kind of the guy that showed that he belongs to be RB1 and he's our guy. Excited to, I would like to see Noah Kim be the guy next week. I'd like to see him to throw 300 yards with a couple touchdowns. We'll see how Richmond matches up though. And I'm gonna own up to my hot take. I thought Hauser and Kim were kind of be the guys to fight it out in the games, but it sounds like the last 2 weeks of camp, Kim was named the starter and he is the guy. Kim played the whole game until like the last series or two, and then Hauser just did a couple handoffs, and I kind of see how he lost the battle because I think he threw one throw and he really tried to fit in like a post and he threw a pick. So if he's doing that in practice, then I can see why Kim might get the nod if Hauser's trying to force it. And Kim's technically in the year, it's his 4th year technically with COVID and everything. So I can see why he won it. I think he's really athletic. I think he throws a great ball. I'd like to see him kind of show up in the future here now that it's his job, and I was completely wrong.
I mean, yeah, you don't really know that. I think the same thing happened at OSU. A lot of people were like, it's definitely what Brown is the other guy's name.
Number 33, right?
Yeah,
Goofy.
33, and ended up being McCord. So
Yeah.
you never really know until the people roll out. So the last two things I missed this on my notes. Drew Allard played a hell of a game, looked great against West Virginia. Penn State is going to be really really good this
Drew
year, which
Allard
goes
is
along with
solid.
what your hot take was for yourself there, Dave. But the whole entire comment. So Harbaugh led off the week with, "There's no offense, there's no defense, there's
Defense.
we fence," and
Goofy.
like he's just so goofy, and I think it's in such an innocent way. Because like I don't think he knows it's gonna be a meme, but I think he knows it's so weird that people in the media are gonna talk about it, and then it ends up becoming a hilarious meme. Obviously, it's like the concept of you have to play together. Each thing plays off complementary football. It's not like he's saying anything new. It's just like he adaged something that was kind of goofy. But his clips and his little quips that he says are hilarious. Like some travel by land, some travel by sea. We prefer land. Like those are some of just the goofy comments that you get in the pressers from Harbaugh. But love having him around the program and everything. But it was a fun week 1, and I think we're gonna get a great week 2. Obviously, you got some big matchups, some more where we're gonna see things playing out. Hopefully MSU can kind of find their footing offensively and get a bigger identity. Maybe Richmond has a decent offense, so we can see that secondary be tested and that team as a whole be tested. And, just a full half of football. And I think for Michigan, it's going to be the same. I'd like to see them have to play into the fourth quarter with starters and, get those guys game ready where they played a whole game. But overall, I'm just excited and happy to be back.
Slick Rick, baby. He's back. He's on UNLV. He kind of torched you guys in 2020. Fun fact. Just looking at Richmond, they lost their first game, a close game, so I don't know how good they'll be, but we'll cover that later in this week.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to bring up before we call this one good today?
No, I think we're good. I'm just happy we're back and can actually talk about what happens on the field instead of guessing.
Tailgating was great. I'm looking forward to some cooler weather up here in Michigan, and I had a poor performance in bags, so time to get some dubs on the board next weekend. But we'll be back. KB and I will be recording on Thursday, and we'll probably go live Friday. So looking forward to week 2. We got some big matchups, as KB said, and I'm gonna say, go green.
Go blue, baby. All right,
All
see
right.
ya.
See you guys.